Hi guys, DarkLordPikachu here. 10 years ago I did a Q&A video and I put my little teenage heart into it alongside a hefty dose of copyrighted material. So today we're avenging that old video and setting the record straight. This is the definitive DLP Q&A. Secret of the Dab asks, why the name DarkLordPikachu? So, when you make a decision as a 13-year-old, I think I would have been at the time, you don't necessarily make the most adult decision around your username. But I'm glad I chose DarkLordPikachu. I'm happy to have it to this day. The truth is, I tried to use the name Hyper Metal Sonic. I tried to get it on YouTube. Someone had taken the username Hyper Metal Sonic. Frustrated, I think I tried another couple options, but nothing was getting through. Picked the stupidest name I could. Just chucked random words together. Thought no one's gonna have DarkLordPikachu. And surprise, surprise, no one did have DarkLordPikachu, so now I have DarkLordPikachu, and I will always be DarkLordPikachu. Animation Break asks, how did Pikachu become a Dark Lord? If you want to be a Dark Lord, you gotta work your way up from the bottom, you gotta eat the crusts on your sandwiches, you gotta drink your milk, brush your teeth, you gotta put in the hours. It's a hard grind. Supersonic1223 and Tails Tech both ask, how and why did you start animating? So I'd become a big fan of fan animations online, sprite animations like Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Z as I called it as a child, and of course the Sonic stop motion scene I got into. So offline I'd made some like basic sprite animations in PowerPoint, but I'd also started collecting the Jazwares figures, so I was sort of between those two things. Stop motion won out in the end, that's what I decided to pursue, with my iPod Touch, Windows Live Movie Maker, and a Dream. For anyone who used Windows Live Movie Maker back in the day, you will know you needed a Dream, because that was not a friendly video editing software at all. On that same topic, Just Sam, Snock, and Crash156 all asked what my biggest inspirations were as a stop motion animator, with Just Sam noticing the rabbits in Botnik's Big Break and correctly identifying that Wallace and Gromit might have played a part in that. So yeah, I've always loved Wallace and Gromit. That sort of gave me my first understanding of what stop motion animation actually was. It's a very good reference point for when someone asks what you do and you go stop motion, they look at you blankly and you go, I like Wallace and Gromit. So it's handy, it's great, everyone loves Wallace and Gromit. Then I started watching YouTube, saw this was a thing you could do at home. You didn't need these expensive setups or clay sculpting skills. And then YouTube gives its own new inspirations. I remember finding As Fast as Lightning. I then got into SSMA, Speed Stories, Sonic Versus, all those 2010s classics. Fast forward to the modern day, I get inspired by a ton of stuff I see online. So to name just a few, J Sonic Blast Animations, Trendsetter, brought in the more digital aspects of things. You look at his animations, you go, how did you do that, Jay? You're doing magic, Jay. Animation Break in the past few years has just skyrocketed in skill level, just insane stuff. Likewise with Dylan K, who's just got his own style and just forging his own path forward. I'll find a random video in my recommended and the average quality nowadays is so high compared to how it used to be. So that's just lovely. Inspiration all around. Punkaroo asks, what would you do if you saw Light Peasant Eevee? So obviously the reverse, you could say. It's on site. It's on site. Hormia asks, will you make an updated Smash figure collection for 2025? So not a dedicated video, but in true Smash Bros Ultimate fashion, let's consider this the DLC. Here's every figure I've picked up following that collection video. So just like the main video, starting off in fighter order, we got the Figma Tears of the Kingdom Link. I really love this guy. He's a lot bigger than the Skyward Sword Figma, which is a bit odd, but just look at him. I love the layers, I love the texturing. The amount of accessories the DX version comes with is bonkers, that's why I had to get it. Really impressed with this figure. He's up there. Jack Specific Daisy was a figure we got a glimpse of just before I uploaded my collection video. Pretty standard stuff, but very glad to have a figure of her. Next we move on to another Zelda figure, but considerably cheaper, the Jack Specific Zelda. Really impressive for the price. I've been animating with her for my next video. It's probably the best experience I've had animating a Jax figure. I really like this figure. Next off we got Pichu. I do have a Pichu already, he was in the main video, but I bought this one off Amazon because the listing had a picture with the spiky ear design, which was my Smash main before Sora. But then when the figure arrived, it didn't have the spiky ears. So that was a letdown, but he's a cool little figure nonetheless, so he stays. And then lastly, for now, we have the Jada Toys Ken. Equally as great as the Ryu figure. I love these guys, I think they're such great value for money. They look great and the articulation is very impressive, so if you see them, pick them up. Looking to the future, I have the Figma Splatoon Inklings on pre-order, along with the Tears of the Kingdom Ganon, and I also impulse ordered the Bulborb from Pikmin with some loyalty points. So we'll have some Pikmin along for the ride too. I've never even played Pikmin. I swear to you, this collector brain rot is a disease. I have no business buying a Pikmin figure, but I did for the Pikmin accessories. There's something wrong with me. This is a cry for help, this video. It's a cry for help. In all seriousness, I'm sure I'll give them all the animation treatment once they arrive, so click that subscribe button and don't miss it. Karmakumo asks a good one. What are your top 3 Jax Sonic releases as of recording? We're going to have to respect the fact they've given us the first figures for so many characters, so top 3's got to go in no particular order. Chaos Zero, Mephiles, obviously. I want to say Neo Metal Sonic, but I can't. The figure it just isn't that cool. But I respect them for doing it. I think it's Omega. That's probably the 3. Now, from looking back to looking to the future, Golden Marcus asks, if you wanted Jax to make a Sonic character that hasn't got a figure yet, who would it be and why? So they've done amazing so far. They've ticked off the main ones that used to get customs back in the day. If we assume the Satayam and Archie cast is a no-go, which it is, then Marine the Raccoon would be funny. It would just, that's sort of my criteria here. Is it funny? And the right level of obscure. Bean and Bark I would purchase immediately. Anything from Sonic the Fighters. They could make Rocket Metal. I would love that. It would be great. Silver 4G follows that up with a tough one. Who's better, Jax or Jazwares? So there's pros and cons to both here. Jax is doing amazing things with the roster that Kid Me would just love. Back in the day, we didn't get classic Knuckles, and it took us what felt like eons to get Charmy. We were struggling out there, and Jax has pulled through. My biases I think are always going to have the Jazwares on top, just because I grew up watching them, I grew up animating them. But the Jax line is great, and I hope it continues. On that subject, Brabius asks, what's the most underrated Sonic figure line? So I think, based on the fact that the discussions revolve around Jax and Jazwares, I think it can't be either of those two. Rosaurus get a decent amount of attention as this old holy grail. I skipped Tommy entirely, so I've got to go all the way back to Toy Island maybe here. They weren't exactly the strongest figures, but as a kid, his tails they span around. You weren't beating that. That's cool as hell, just flying him around in your garden. Not the best by any means, but underrated for sure. I don't really hear any discussion of the Toy Island line, so definitely underrated. Gabe's Animations asks, if Sonic colors, what is he coloring? Colors? Colors. I don't know if this is some strange American term. I know Sonic Colors with a U. Have you misspelled colors? I don't know what you're trying to say here, Gabe. You're just speaking a different language. I don't know what else to say to you. Afam Sara Sonic Gamer asks, what are your favorite colors? I like blue. I like orange. I like the word chartreuse. That's just a fun word to say, and I encourage everyone to say it at least once a year. Twice a year if you want. It's good for your soul. Chartreuse. Boosterfor asks, which video of yours is your absolute favourite? The Sonic Says one is pretty top tier. Not sure if any of the others come close to it for me. Thanks for the love on the Sonic Says one, George. I wonder if that has anything to do with the voice actor involved in those, or if that's a completely unbiased opinion. Favourite video, I'm stuck between a few options. I'm going to hold one of them off for a question that's coming up. So I'm going to say Club Nintendo 2 is my favourite here. It's right before I made the change to Dragon Frame, which I feel really improved my animation, but I don't think it suffers. I think the animation's decent. The lighting is my favourite in any video I've done, and I love the no dialogue. It's the longest I've pulled that off in a video. Having no dialogue and still being able to tell a story. I just find that a fun challenge. There's some recency bias, but I'll also chuck an honourable mention to the Pokemon animation I did last year. Again, same thing. Telling a story, no dialogue. I really love doing that. I'm really proud of the 2D effects animations I did in that, and the pacing of it all. It's like the fastest paced video I've made. I think it works well. George also asks, what's one thing you wish you could tell your younger self when you first started the channel? So I'm going to cheat. He said one thing. I'm going to name a couple. I hope that's okay, George. If it's not, you let me know in the comments. Disable resample in Vegas. Just do it. It messes with your frame rate. I don't know why it's on automatically. If anyone uses Vegas, go into the settings, disable resample, and change the export to best. I think it's usually as good. Why do they do that? I don't know. Second thing is don't delete any old videos. There's a ton, I can't even remember how many. That's the problem when you delete them. Of videos over the years that I just don't have anymore. I've unlisted a couple. I started a new playlist of unlisted DLP videos from the archive. Ones I'm not super proud of. I don't want publicly accessible for someone to find and be introduced to my channel, but they're there if you want them, and they're a nice trip down memory lane. Snock left a very nice comment and asks, what projects do you have the most fun making? Whatever they may be, I totally encourage you to keep doing them because that's where passion and creativity shines the most. Thank you very much. The reason I've split this up from George's comment is that I do think there's a small distinction to be made between favourite projects and the ones I've had the most fun making. So whilst I'll say Club Nintendo 2 is my favourite, I think the most fun I've had making a video would be Botnik's Big Break. It's got a good variety in there, which always keeps me interested and you don't get bored. I got to do a strictly scripted section with the Badniks, a purely visual section with the anime OP, and then got to experiment with tone with the Chris Thorndike ending, and some improv. If you're dedicated enough to be watching my Q&A but somehow haven't seen that video, I would totally recommend it. I think it's some of my best work still. Snock and Top Hat Silver both ask, any projects you ever wanted to make that aren't stop motion? So in my personal life, I went to university for film production. So I've directed a good amount of short films before. YouTube-wise, I've had a few non-stop motion plans before for videos. I started an In Defense of Sonic and the Black Knight script in 2021. There was a TV show format style video idea that I'd started thinking up for a certain group channel I was a part of. I'm sure there's more I'm forgetting, but for various reasons they either turned out to be too much work, too much of a time sink to be viable, or it just didn't feel right, it didn't feel genuine. Part of me's always wanted to make some sort of documentary type retrospective thing covering the early Sonic stop motion scene, but I think I'd be too wary of putting myself into that narrative unjustly. Like, I don't know if I could cover a community I'm in without my own natural biases getting into it. It just gets weird. I think I'm too close to it, but I'd love someone else to do it. I'd watch that. Likewise, I'd love to run some sort of sit-down interviews with like old creators, but I don't know that I'm the right person for that. I think I'm just summing up things I'd like to watch. So someone get out there, do that. You might be the right person. Top Hat Silver follows that up and says, your work in Goring was always a fun watch to get more DLP content. Any plans for Goring to make a comeback? Thank you very much for the Goring love. That was a great way for me to diversify from animating. I worked it out and I personally edited over 16 hours of Goring videos in the almost 2-year run we had. And that's just the stuff that made the upload. I think that also sums up why Goring wasn't fully sustainable though. We're all incredibly proud of Goring and everything we put out, but I definitely wouldn't have had the time to be able to make a fraction of what I've done on my channel if it was still going. Same for the other guys. So no plans for a comeback at this time, but I'll happily take this time to plug some favourites we put out with some obvious bias towards my own edits, because of course. So the Jazwares tier list, I would thoroughly recommend to anyone watching this video or a fan of my channel. The Sonic Adventure playthrough with all our special guests, that was just a great blast down stop motion memory lane. The Sonic the Fighters video was one of our last ones and one of my favourites. And of course the Christmas special I would recommend. A very special question next from someone who was one of my very first subscribers way back in 2012 and might even have been my first ever subscriber. Way back before I even made stop motions, True Blue Black 47 left a lovely comment and asks, did you ever expect to keep your channel going this long? Absolutely not. And even when I started animating and had that big success with the Halloween special, I didn't think it was going to be something I'd still be working on like a decade on. I think it sort of set in that I was going to continue doing this when I released that Ash vs Mewtwo video in 2018. That was a comeback while I was at university after a big period of inactivity through A-levels. When I realised I still had the drive in me to animate, even when I had the outlet of university filmmaking, I knew that drive wasn't going away anytime soon. So I've got zero plans to stop. The uploads might slow, the videos might get shorter, but I'll still be chipping away. Always stop motion on the brain, always. They also ask, what is your favourite and least favourite thing about animation? So my favourite is still editing. I think it's been editing since I started. When it all comes together and you get that nice render out, once it works, it's just the most deeply satisfying thing you can do. I am a renderholic. I will render my project just all the time to see it in nice glorious 4K while I'm working on it, because I love seeing it together and then nitpicking it to hell. My least favourite part used to be the actual animating, but in the last 4 years I've moved to using a software called Dragon Frame, and it's made the whole process so much more enjoyable for me. It basically takes some of the parts of editing that I love and just moves them earlier on in the process. So you're seeing what you're doing as you're doing it. There's no surprises once you get everything into your editing timeline. You get that nice release of, oh my god, I've done it, while you're doing it. Which obviously helps you push through it and push through the frustrating bits where your figures fall over and you bump the camera or your camera battery dies. I'd say the least favourite part now is setting up to shoot, because it's just a formality, it's just something you have to do and get out of the way. Thank you very much for the comment and for popping in after so many years. Always good to hear from you. Captain Flood asks, are the goblins still coming and are they coming for your eyes? I can't decide whether it's funnier to explain the context behind this or not. Basically, first year of university, I'm with Mrs. DLP, and in my sleep, I sometimes talk, not often though, and relatively early into this relationship, I said the words in my sleep, the demons are coming and they're clawing out my eyes. I think the fact that Mrs. DLP is still with me and did not run away immediately is a great testament to our relationship, because I can't really explain that. You might recognise this phrase. I snuck it into Botnik's Big Break alongside a lovely little poem about goblins, just for everyone to enjoy. Play the clip. SSJ Tanaka asks, what's your address? I've actually just moved out with my girlfriend, so we've got our own place in just outside of... The postcode's... So feel free to drop by anytime you like. Just anyone. Just come say hi. They also ask, which toy in your collection is your favourite and what should I make for dinner tomorrow? So my favourite figure's a tricky question. That's like my favourite child. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say a few. So the Kirby Nendoroid is just a genius figure. You couldn't do it better. It's just so impressive. The Bring Arts Cloud Strife from Kingdom Hearts 1 is a beautiful design, perfectly realised as a figure. I really like the new deluxe Tears of the Kingdom Link, but there's a lot of recency bias there. At the lower price range, Chaos Zero is still so surreal to have as a figure, and I spent a very long time trying to hunt him down in both New York and the UK, so he's got to be up there. For dinner tomorrow, you should have spaghetti bolognese. I know that you've already had dinner months ago. I hope it was spaghetti bolognese. You missed out if not. Snock asks, any chance of a potential room tour once settled in? So we'll go for 2 rooms. We've got Office 1, that's Mrs. DLP, as she works fully remote. But if we turn to the decor, it becomes the Nerd Cave. So you can see my setup here. The space where I'll actually be animating is in our spare bedroom, so we'll pick up on that in a later question. I'm going to roll these 2 into one question. Sepokaka and Not Waffle VR both ask, who is your favourite Sonic character? While Noz Studios asked if there's any character you think should get a Year of Shadow treatment, who would it be? So it's a normie answer, but I like my hedgehogs. It's probably Shadow after the big push he's had. Silver's up there. I love Silver. And my Archie heart loves Scourge. If we're talking about a whole year for one character though, it's got to be the artist formerly known as Cucky the Chicken. Justice for Cucky the Chicken. They've renamed him to Clucky. I'm not having it. The people want the year of Cucky. Crash156 asks, was your first stop motion something on your channel? I think so. If I did do a test, I don't have it. But I believe my first animation was Shadow Agent of Gun, which is on my channel. I don't think I did anything before that, which was very brave. I feel like I should have had a stop motion test 1. I feel like that's a rite of passage, right? BCA Productions asks, would you ever consider revamping Sonic Hero of Mobius or making a different stop motion series, Sonic or non-Sonic related? So I've never considered a revamp actually. I was still working on episode 6 for a very long time. I'll put some clips up on the stream while I'm talking. I was pretty happy with how it was going, but I lost the drive on it. I felt like I was making it more for YouTube than I was for myself. My newer mindset with YouTube is that your biggest audience has to be yourself with these big projects. I'm making it for me, and it's just a bonus that it goes online and other people get to see it, and thankfully they like it. So sadly, Hero of Mobius had to die. And ever since I've had an aversion to telling people what I'm working on before it's out. I love surprise dropping. When we did Botnik's Big Break as part of Goal Ring Week, I loved it because I had this just nonsense video and people in the premiere not knowing what they were about to see, not even really having an idea of the tone of the video. It was great. So the surprise drops will hopefully continue. I love the freedom that my next video can be literally anything. There's no expectation from you guys on what's next. It's my job to win you over on whatever I choose to do. I love that feeling. I think if I had a series going, you get those comments on when's the next episode of this, when's the next episode of this. Everything you put out is compared to the possibility that it could have been your next episode. So you lose a bit of freedom there, but never say never. Supersonic1223 asks, do you have any suggestions on how to make a Sonic series? That's a great question. I actually rewatched my old copyrighted Q&A from 2015 just before this, and I got asked this very question back then, and I had this answer.
I'd say just plan it out, have a good idea of what you want to accomplish before you start it. That way you know what direction your series is going in.
It actually pains me that I can physically hear that I have braces in that clip. But that aside, I completely disagree with my old opinion, which I think is brilliantly fun. Don't stress about planning things out. Just get that first episode out and ride that wave wherever it takes you. Don't be afraid to change course, change tone, change anything. Everyone gets to a point where they're a few episodes deep and they look back on episode 1 and it physically hurts them. But that's the best part. That's the best part of the whole process. I think I'm only in that position so many years on now looking back, but honestly, it's the best feeling ever is looking back at where you started and being like, oh my god, what was I thinking? Take that leap of faith, go for it. Don't feel like you have to have a series to be a success though. You can do whatever. As long as it's good, people will be there. Just Sam asks, full stop motion recreation of the Sonic OVA when? I love the Sonic OVA so much. I really hope we get a nice, clean 4K transfer of it at some point. That last Sonic Says video I did as part of Collab 3. Tails copying Sonic in that, I got that from the OVA. Literally while we were watching the OVA for the commentary on Goal Ring, I noted down mentally in my head, you can see the moment I go, I want to do that.
There's so much good like character stuff in there.
Also, if we go back to my first scripted stop motion classic Sonic in there, what voice am I using? It's the Martin Burke OVA voice. So I would love to do more things to do with the OVA. No full-length recreation though, I don't think you'll be surprised to hear that. Soph asks, what are your thoughts on the Sonic movies? So we've just covered the Sonic OVA, love the OVA. Sonic Movie 1 does nothing for me. Apart from the post-credit scene with Tails, that's nice. And the post-credit scene with Eggman. Apart from the post-credit scenes, does nothing for me. End of the movie, cool. Rest of the movie, no. The second one, you reach the point where it's like good enough that I'll watch clips of it on YouTube sometimes. I haven't rewatched the first or second Sonic movies and I don't think I will. So they're just not really my thing. The third one, I loved it. Third one was an actual great Sonic movie. I will rewatch it. I got a Sonic popcorn tin. I really enjoyed it. Gabe's Animations asks, what happens if I give you a Thunderstone? Well, I guess I'd be DarkLordPikachu, and that just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. DLR, and that's a train line in London, so search engine optimization's out the window. I could be a Lowland Raichu. Is DLAR better? Delar? And then we'd have to do a whole rebrand. I've got this DLP art by Porky for the video. Some people have their own custom figures. You'd have to break it to them. I couldn't do that to the poor souls. XXBlade17 says, haven't seen you in years. Are there any figures that don't exist but you wish did? So first of all, where you been? I've got some good stuff. You're in a good position here. You got that Pokemon vid. You got that nice Sonic Adventure vid. You got a great collection vid. There's loads there, so have fun, enjoy. But to answer your question, figures that don't exist I wish did, anything from the Smash Bros roster to be honest, so a nice modern Banjo and Kazooie figure in scale would be great. The dream is a properly articulated Game Sonic in scale. That would, I'm gonna go with that. Evan Productions asks, yes. Supersonic Boom asks, is there anything besides the people that you liked about the States enough to want to experience again? So for those unaware, I had the absolute pleasure to visit New York in December 2022 and meet a bunch of friends I'd made for YouTube to hang out, look for Sonic toys, play Smash Bros and have fun staying in the YMCA. It was such an amazing experience, so my answer is of course the people, but if I have to choose a second thing, I would say that living in the UK, the US is, it feels like a TV show, for better or worse, you can take that how you like. We're so used to your films and TV over here that like your mundane things for you, like yellow taxis in New York, red fire hydrants, yellow school buses, they're really quite weird and surreal to experience as a Brit. It's like you wandered into a film set and it's that moment of, oh, this is real. It's gonna sound so weird and so pathetic. And then on my third day in New York, I walked out of a Barnes & Noble, 10 out of 10 by the way, saw 2 fire engines with their sirens blaring. Firefighters all jump out, they go through the traffic on foot, driver parks the fire trucks up on the pavement, and then some woman just comes along and crashes her car into a parked fire truck. Like it's a bright red fire truck. It's got its sirens on. The lights are flashing. The sirens were on. I don't know how she didn't see it. And then everyone around me is just walking on. It's just like a normal New York day. Like I could half expect to see just Spider-Man swing past. It was chaos. And I'm just flabbergasted. I've watched a lady crash her car into a fire truck, and no one seems to care. Then when we met up, I'm pretty sure it was you saying about some guy you saw on the subway that did a flip or something. And then New York native M Porky P was just like, oh, you saw Flippy Steve. Like it was a normal thing. It's not, America isn't a real place. I know I've rambled a bit here, but to directly answer your question, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the car crash into the fire truck, and I would like to experience that again. Soup also asked, How do you manage to successfully organise and supervise massive projects like the Sonic Stop Motion Collab 3? Is it something you're naturally gifted at, or did it all come from practice and experience? First of all, thank you. For the uninitiated, I took a producer role on the third Sonic Stop Motion collab, so part of that was liaising with the 30 odd animators involved, tracking who was doing what, making sure all the shorts were in on time, deciding on the running order, managing quality control, and so on. On Collab 2 I was just a participant, but I made the trailer for it and got to experience a little bit of the admin side through everyone sending me their clips for that. So I think that planted the seed early for the ways I'd want to organise things when the editor role fell to me for Collab 3, and that manifested itself in the form of a bunch of Excel documents. We had a tracker for pretty much everything you could have a tracker for. I think it worked quite well. We got a very nice collab done out of it. Funnily enough, I've gotten way more into massive Excel trackers in my current job, but that came after the collab. So I think the collab actually gave me some experience for that. But I've always loved color coding things. I love ticking off a list, who doesn't? So I think a big old tracking document is just wired into my DNA. I think the main thing is probably that I find it quite fun. So anything you enjoy is naturally gonna come easier to you. So that probably helped quite a bit. DarkLordPikachu asks, what does that thumbs up button do on the video? What does the big red bar saying subscribe mean? Should I click it? You're such a great guy, by the way. There should be a playlist just made up of you. Thank you for the comment, DarkLordPikachu, a distinct entity from myself, no relation. And a playlist made of me? There is a playlist made of me. How funny you would mention that. I've made a playlist. I'm in other people's videos sometimes. I'd like to continue to be. So that's where they'll be. You'll find me as Froggy. You'll find me as DarkLordPikachu Newsreader. You'll find me as DarkLordPikachu Newsreader. That's a recurring role. As a little Sylvanian family guy. That one's not out yet. You'll find me as Godzilla. An Oscar-winning performance as Godzilla. It's hard being a Godzilla. It's hard. It's hard. I hope you enjoy. Some quickfire ones from Knight's Advent. Pancakes or waffles? RuneScape or Club Penguin? DarkLordPikachu versus a shoe. So I'm gonna answer these all in one go. I'm gonna say that's a triple P. It's gonna be pancakes, penguin, and Pikachu. I beat the shoe. Although I guess it depends on the shoe. If you got one that starts with a P and it doesn't ruin the little thing I came up with, I'm willing to concede it to the shoe. Also from Knight's Advent, thoughts on Guys Play Games and Five-Sided Square. So that's obviously a big influence on what we did with Goal Ring. Game Grumps were clearly the main influence, but I don't know if we would have ended up going for it if the precedent hadn't already been set with those two group channels. So much respect to the council. NTH has requested that I rank my top 10 beverages, so we're doing this, I guess, in no particular order. I love a cherry Lucozade, the Oreo milkshake from Five Guys. If you can pick, go like Oreo, chocolate, bit of vanilla in there, why not? Dr. Pepper's quite nice. Fanta Orange, just a crisp apple juice. Vanilla Coke or like a Coke float, because I guess that's what just a vanilla Coke is. And then a pina colada, I'm gonna say. That's my 10. Lawn137, the Speed Strats legend, asks, thoughts on my favourite Pokemon Furret? So I do actually have some thoughts on Furret. It should be illegal that he's that large. He deserves to be a little guy. This guy is like 5'11" or something. That's wrong. No. I like his design. I'd like one in real life if they weren't so large. It never sat right with me that it evolved from Sentret. That doesn't connect in my head, because in my head Furret is smaller than Sentret. So what do I actually know? Captain Flood asks, what are your favourite movies? While Snock asks about pieces of fiction in general. So films, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Love that film since I first saw it. There's loads of recency bias with me. I watched Whiplash like 2 weeks ago, so all my brain is Whiplash at the moment. If we go to animation, the original Alice in Wonderland I love. Keeping it Disney, Lilo and Stitch has always been a childhood favourite. Wallace and Gromit, The Wrong Trousers, up there. Graphic novels, we'll jump to, anything in fiction. I would recommend Spider-Man Life Story. Again, just reread that recently. Great graphic novel. The Pokemon Adventures manga is very nostalgic for me. I've been rereading that recently. TV, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, just the whole thing. I wrote my dissertation on Doctor Who. That's like an 11,000 word essay, so you can quiz me. Super Jump Rose 64 asks, what are your animation plans for 2025? And Silver4G asks, what kind of future videos planned? Any with Silver or Blaze? So for 2025 specifically, I finished about 1 minute of animation on my next project. That's going to be an expansion on the group photo section of my collection video. Mrs. DLP and I moved out in January. I actually had to go back to my mum's house in March to film on my old desk for continuity reasons. So I'm committed to this. Thankfully, I'm finished with the parts set on that desk, so I'll finish animating the rest of the video in some point in the future. I need to make a set for it, but it's on pause at the moment, but that's probably next thing coming. In terms of anything beyond 2025, I like to just come up with video ideas when they come and just go with the flow with it. So I've got rough ideas on types of things I'd like to do, but nothing specifically planned beyond the one I'm working on at the moment. I'm leaning towards more Smash Bros stuff because the possibilities with that are sort of endless. I can go anywhere within the franchises. Like, I did a Pokemon video, it's also a Smash Bros video. There's a lot of room there to play with. To answer your question, I have nothing planned for Silver and Blaze, sorry. But the Jax Blaze is so much better than the Jazwares one, so I'm already much more likely to want to animate her than I ever have been before. Never say never. Jay from Sonic Blast Animations comments, since you're moving out and saying goodbye to the classic DLP animation desk, rest in peace, what are you planning for your new setup for stop motion? So ignore the mess, but I'll be animating in our spare bedroom. In this box I've decanted all my figure accessories into individual bags for easy access. We swapped to a sofa bed in here to give me more floor space for my lights and tripods. I'd like to swap to a standing desk at some point where I can adjust the height of it, but this should be good for now. What's something you think all animators could use in their setup? I'm going to say a slider. I found it revolutionary. If you shoot on a camera, a slider, just get a slider. I shoot everything with the slider. I'm addicted to the slider. I am the slider. What's it like animating so many characters at the same time for a number of your animations? It's fun. So I started with Club Nintendo, then Dragonframe really opened the door. Since then, it's like an addiction. I love the group shots. The group picture segments from the collection video, obviously the culmination of that. It's extremely time consuming, but really rewarding. The serotonin boost you get from just animating one figure and then watching it back, that feeling, just multiply it everywhere you look in the frame. It's great. It often leads to some of my favourite shots I've ever animated. And that's just too good of a transition to resist jumping away from Jay for a question and over to Lightning CMB, who asks, what would you consider your favourite frame or shot you ever animated? Of shots that I've uploaded, either this shot of the group photo video, I just love the amount of movement going on there, and that I got Pit flying to work practically without having to remove a stand because I hid it. That's always great. That or the Pokemon one shot. There's also a part in that Pokemon video that was almost a disaster, but because I rescued it, does rank up there in some of my favourite shots. I forgot that the poster's supposed to be on the leg in this shot, so I had to go back, match the angle, thank you Dragonframe Onion Skin, and then animate the poster and then comp it together. I think it worked seamlessly, not to toot my own horn. It looks fine, and I thought it wouldn't. I'm very happy with that. It's one of my favourite shots. Some of the shots I'm working on at the moment, I really love. I'm really pushing the amount of movement I can get in the frame. I've put on screen a time lapse of one of those shots because I'm not ready to show the actual shots. I like holding my cards back, but a time lapse I think is fair ground as a sneak peek. Back to the questions from Jay. In terms of advice on filling out the Smash roster in action figures, you gotta pray for those restocks and jump on them ASAP. The Inklings thankfully have been restocked, much to my happiness, and I'm sure everyone's. Figures like Twilight Princess Zelda, she's just lost. She's lost in time. I'm not getting that. Being a part of the best NSO family, what are some of your favourite Nintendo Switch games and what are you hoping to see when the Switch 2 rolls around later this year? We are indeed on the same NSO family plan, which is quite cute. My most played Switch games are Smash Bros, which is fitting, Splatoon 3, which I know you love, and Tears of the Kingdom. So pretty standard Switch stuff, but I think you'd be surprised by the amount of hours I have in Dr. Mario on the NES, of all things. With the Switch 2, I'm actually recording this answer after the other ones in the video, as I've just watched the April 2nd Direct. I'm excited for Switch 1 games to run better on it. I'm very excited about the GameCube on NSO. I didn't think they'd ever do that because the library on the GameCube is just ripe for remakes. I'm also hopeful for third-party support. I'll be picking up Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm hopeful we get Kingdom Hearts 4 when it eventually releases, because I don't want to have to buy a PS5 or PS6 just for that one game. I will do it, but I don't want to. In terms of things I want to see that haven't been announced, Kid Icarus Uprising, always, would be awesome once Sakura is free again. I honestly think the time's right for an Ocarina of Time remake, but time will tell, and Nintendo never do what you expect them to do, so it will probably never happen. How do you think your gaming tastes have changed since the last Q&A? 10 years ago, when I did the last Q&A, it would have been like early PS4 era. I think I was playing like Batman Arkham Knight and not much else. I skipped out on the Wii U, so in terms of what's changed, definitely more Nintendo focus. They've won me back over, and I think I'm still replaying a bunch of games that were my favourite back then. I just finished playing back through Kingdom Hearts 2, obviously played Sonic Adventure with yourself, so I think those old favourites are pretty locked in at this point. Final question from Jay.
Can I ask you a question?
As long as it's not about my eye. Is it about my eye?
Sort of.
Just ask the question.
What's with the eye?
I can't believe you'd actually asked this question, Joe. I know we've gotten quite close to the whole like NSO family thing, the 2 collabs, link in the description, the group channel, the card on the top right of the screen. But that sort of question is just out of line, a bit too personal, okay? You can't ask about someone's eye patch like that, okay? It's just not proper. Tailstack asks, what's behind DRP's eye patch? That's a really lovely question, actually. I'll tell you telepathically so Jay can't hear, but it'll just be our little secret, okay? So I'm sending that across now. Hope you got it. And it's actually a really lovely answer, isn't it? Which is fitting for such a lovely question. Thank you. Thank you. Sonic Plush and Stop Motion asks, what was the first Sonic game that you owned? Personally owned, I think, would be Sonic Heroes on the PS2. But my dad actually had a Mega Drive and owned the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, so I think I probably played that first. Snock asks, how did you get into the Sonic franchise and what are your personal favourite things about it? Games, TV, comics, fan stuff, etc. So, as I said, I think it would have been playing my dad's Mega Drive to begin with. But then my proper step into the franchise was Sonic X, Sonic Heroes, the toys in Toys R Us and stuff like that. Sonic was everywhere back then. I still have the old McDonald's toys somewhere. My favourite things about the franchise would obviously be the fan works. I loved the Archie comics. I won't accept any Ian Flynn slander just because of his output back then. It was a great time. To be honest, the games are probably the weakest side of the franchise for me, which is quite weird to say about a video game franchise. Snock also asks, what's your favourite food? So if we're talking death row meals, I will give you the very specific answer of my mum's roast potatoes. I know no one else has tasted my mum's roast potatoes, I assume. I'd be surprised. Our search engine optimization king, Stop Motion Sonic, asks, what other artistic hobbies do you do outside of stop motion? That's a risky question there, Kyle, because if I say none, it's just a bit awkward and we all have to sit in that. But I am going to answer I play the guitar, so that's my other artistic hobby. Although I need to pick it back up. I struggle with doing more than one thing at once. At the moment, I'm all in on this video and animating and editing. The other hobbies, they get parked. They get a pin in them, sadly. One seems to take over. Super Jump Rose 64 asks a few questions. How do you afford all the figures and go around collecting? So you gotta spread those purchases out. I could not afford my collection if I was buying it all today from scratch. You gotta remember this is stretched over like a decade's worth of collecting. In terms of ordering them, I go between AmiAmi, which I think is the best service online for it, and Tokyo Otaku Mode, because their loyalty point system, if you have a membership, is really great. It means I've picked up a few figures really cheap with that point system, but they're also somewhat limited in what figures they get, sadly. But that's where AmiAmi comes in. Do you think animations for Mario, Sonic and other properties are dying out? Do you think YouTube's formatting and recommending what they think you like makes it harder to find upcoming stop motion animators? So I definitely understand that argument. I think most new animators I find are through actively searching for animations, not the recommended tab. I do think it's tough to find an audience if you're starting out because the quality of stuff I stumble across is so much higher than is reflected in the view count. I think it's a lot harder to convert views into subscribers as well. So it's tough, yeah. I don't think YouTube is super friendly to what we do. Adam Ratner asks, what is your favourite Sonic collab in general? Playable appearances, comics like Archie, you name it. I gotta go with the Sonic stop motion collab, obviously. Second one was where I got involved. Third is the one where I took a producing role, sort of overseeing it. In terms of official collabs, I love that first Archie Mega Man Worlds Collide crossover. The lead up to that with the teaser art and the cover reveals, that was probably the most excited I've been as a Sonic fan. Games wise, the Fall Guys collab was a lot of fun, and although I never played it, the LEGO Dimensions collab looked like a lot of fun as well. It looked like a lot of fans were behind that, developing it. The DC Comics crossover also looks bonkers, so love that. To close us off, we have a question from my good friend mPorkyP, who's been here since the last Q&A 10 whole years ago, and drew the wonderful art on screen that you're looking at right now. mPorkyP asks, after 10 years, what keeps you coming back? I think it's having that creative outlet and that built-in audience, which very kindly allow me a lot of wiggle room in what they'll choose to click on. I feel like I've got a lot of freedom in what I want to make. It keeps YouTube fun for me. I don't feel locked into doing this or doing that. I can do scripted. I can do no dialogue at all. I can do Sonic, Mario, I can do Pokemon. I've got a lot of room there that helps bring me back. We all know it, but the rush of a video taking off is like nothing else. So forever chasing that high once you get a taste of it. I think everyone's in the same boat there. I'm pretty confident I've had my biggest video in terms of views, but in terms of quality, I'm forever trying to push that each upload. It's fun to try and beat yourself. I watch a lot of my stuff back and just nitpick it to hell and go, I could have done that better, I could have done that better, what can I do on the next video? So that's the sort of game I play with myself that keeps me coming back. So that drive to do something better or create like the perfect magnum opus, that will keep me coming back. That's gonna continue to keep me coming back for a very long time. Oh wait, there's actually one more question, sorry. Gabe's Animations asks, can you rank your favourite letters of the alphabet? Yeah, I can. So I like Q. I think it's pretty quirky. You can't spell quirky without Q. I like Z, because I say Z and some people say Z. I prefer Z. If we're splitting it between Z and Z, I prefer Z. I'm not sure on W. W is a controversial one because it's sort of cheating. It's not its own letter. It's two U's that are doubled. I don't know if I respect that. I don't know if I disavow that. I don't know where I stand on W. I'll park W. B. 40 minutes, huh? Thanks to everyone who made it to the end and for waiting so patiently for me to answer your 3-month-old questions. I'm sure I'll get a couple of, wow, I forgot I asked that comments. Speaking of, a very special thank you to everyone who asked a question. Your names are currently scrolling by on the screen. It's cliche to say I couldn't have done it without you, but quite literally, if you didn't ask any questions, I couldn't have made this video. So thanks again. And a very special thank you to the amazing mporkyp for the artwork. Who would have thought those teens in the 2010s working on the Blue Blur and Sonic Hero of Mobius would still be here a decade on? If you're one of my subscribers but somehow aren't subscribed to Porky, you know what needs to be done. Another special thank you goes out to the Consoles, whose beautiful jazz covers have soundtracked this entire video. I'll have links to each specific track in the description, so I really recommend checking them out. Being primarily an animator, I don't get to talk to you guys like this often, so this has really scratched that itch. We did a Q&A back in 2015, this one in 2025, so shall we go ahead and pencil in 2035? Does that work for everyone? You keep that clear? Hopefully it won't be that long till I speak to you like this again, and I'll get right back to animating the next video, after a well-needed break. This might not be as intense to make as one of my animations, but it is the longest video on my channel. Don't expect many more videos around this runtime. I think we'll probably head in back to the 1 minute, 2 minute routine if that's okay with everyone. Until next time, I've been DarkLordPikachu, and that's a wrap.